Small things often take more control over life than major problems. A short comment can change your mood for hours. A minor delay can ruin your focus. A small mistake can stay in your mind longer than it should. These moments feel simple, yet they slowly shape how you think, how you react, and how you live each day. This audiobook is about breaking that pattern. It is about learning how to respond with clarity instead of reaction, how to protect your time and energy, and how to stop giving power to things that do not deserve it. It focuses on practical changes that can be applied in daily life, not theory or complicated ideas. Inside, you will learn how to stay calm when frustration rises, how to focus your mind when distractions appear, how to build stronger habits through consistency, and how to make better decisions without overthinking. You will also learn how to set limits, protect your peace, and keep your attention on what actually matters. Every chapter is designed to help you think more clearly and act with more control. The goal is simple: less emotional reaction, more stability, more direction in daily life. If life has been feeling scattered or easily affected by small issues, this journey will help you reset your approach and rebuild steady control step by step. Chapter 1. Choose calm responses before small problems grow larger. Small problems do not stay small because of their size. They grow because of the way you meet them. A rude message, a delay in your day, a mistake at work, a person speaking carelessly, a plan changing at the last moment. None of these have power on their own unless you give it to them. The real issue is not the event. The real issue is the reaction. The moment you lose your calm, you hand your peace to something that never deserved it. This is where real strength begins. Not in forcing life to stop bringing trouble, not in pretending nothing bothers you. Real strength begins when you decide that your mind will not be pulled around by every small pressure. You do not need to become cold. You do not need to become distant. You do not need to stop caring. You need to become steady. You need to learn how to respond in a way that protects your peace and keeps your life moving in the right direction. A calm response does not mean you ignore problems. It means you see them clearly. It means you choose your next move instead of letting anger choose it for you. It means you understand that a strong person does not explode at every inconvenience. A strong person slows down long enough to think. A strong person knows that most daily trouble becomes worse when emotion leads and wisdom follows too late. Many people live in a constant state of reaction. They wake up and check their phone, and one upsetting message changes their whole mood. They face one difficult conversation and carry that tension into the rest of the day. They hear one negative comment and let it sit in their mind for hours. They make one mistake and talk to themselves with cruelty. They spend their energy on things that will not matter tomorrow, while the important parts of life receive less care. That is how small things take control. They do not demand it. They are allowed in. You can stop that pattern. You can train yourself to pause. You can build a mind that does not panic at every little thing. You can create space between what happens and what you do next. That space is where your freedom lives. That space is where your character becomes visible. That space is where your future is shaped. The first step is simple but serious. Notice how quickly you react. Pay attention to the moments when your body tightens. Notice when your voice changes. Notice when your breathing gets short. Notice when your mind starts making the problem larger than it is. Most people do not even see the reaction begin. They only see the damage after the words are spoken, or the message is sent, or the choice is made too fast. Awareness gives you power. If you can see the moment forming, you can interrupt it. There is no shame in having strong feelings. Frustration is part of being human. Stress is part of being human. Disappointment is part of being human. The problem is not the feeling. The problem is believing every feeling deserves immediate action. A feeling is information. It is not always instruction. You may feel insulted and still choose respect. You may feel rushed and still choose care. You may feel angry and still choose silence until your thoughts are clear. This is a skill. It grows with practice. The calm response starts before the problem grows larger. That means your first job is not to win the moment. Your first job is to protect your mind. When something bothers you, ask yourself one honest question. Is this truly urgent, or is my emotion making it feel urgent? Many situations lose their power when you answer that truthfully. A late reply is not always disrespect. A small mistake is not always failure. A bad morning is not a bad life. A disagreement is not a disaster. The mind often creates drama where a simple response would be enough. You need to become the kind of person who can sit with discomfort without rushing to escape it. That does not happen by accident. It happens when you practice restraint in ordinary moments. When someone cuts you off in traffic and you choose not to spend the next 10 minutes raging. When a family member speaks sharply and you choose not to answer with equal sharpness. When a task feels harder than expected and you resist the urge to quit emotionally. Each of these moments is training. Every calm choice makes the next calm choice easier. A stoic life is not a life without emotion. It is a life where reason has a place. It is a life where you stop asking every feeling to lead. It is a life where you understand that peace is not found by controlling everything around you. Peace is found by controlling what happens inside you. This kind of control is not harsh. It is helpful. It gives you room to think. It gives you room to choose. It gives you room to keep your dignity even when other people lose theirs. When you respond calmly, you protect your energy. This matters more than many people realize. Your energy is limited. Every argument drains something. Every unnecessary worry drains something. Every small emotional battle drains something. If you spend your strength on minor issues, you will have less left for your work, your health, your family, and your growth. A calm response is not weakness. It is conservation. It is wisdom. It is choosing where to invest your life. Think about how many times a small thing turned into a larger problem only because someone reacted too fast. A simple question became a fight. A small misunderstanding became resentment. A minor delay became a ruined day. A short criticism became days of self-doubt. That pattern can end with you. You can be the person who slows the whole process down. You can be the person who does not hand over control at the first sign of pressure. You can be the person who says, "This is uncomfortable, but not unmanageable." One powerful habit is to breathe before you speak. It sounds too simple to matter, and yet it matters deeply. A single slow breath can stop a sharp reply. It can keep your tone from becoming harsh. It can give your mind a few seconds to catch up with your feelings. Those seconds are often enough. You do not need a perfect technique, you need a pause. The pause is where better choices enter. When a problem appears, your mind may try to rush ahead and create worst-case stories. It may say, "This always happens to me." It may say, "This day is ruined." It may say, "This person never respects me." It may say, "I cannot handle this." These thoughts feel true in the moment because they carry emotion, but emotion does not make them accurate. You do not have to obey every thought just because it is loud. You can answer it with truth. This is one setback. This is one moment. This does not define me. I can deal with this. I can decide what matters next. That is the voice you need to build inside yourself. Not fake positivity. Not denial. Clear truth. Calm truth. Honest truth. The truth is that many problems are manageable when you stop feeding them with fear. The truth is that most people do better when they slow down. The truth is that your next choice matters more than your first feeling. The truth is that you can learn this even if you have not done it well before. There will be days when you feel tired and your patience is low. There will be times when you are already carrying stress and one more small issue feels too heavy. That is when this work matters most. Calm is not only for good days. Calm is for crowded days. Calm is for difficult conversations. Calm is for disappointment. Calm is for the moments when your character is tested by small things that want to become big in your mind. You can begin by changing the way you talk to yourself in stressful moments. Instead of saying, "This is terrible," say, "This is uncomfortable." Instead of saying, "I cannot deal with this," say, "I need one step at a time." Instead of saying everything is going wrong, say one thing needs attention. The words you use shape the emotional weight of the moment. Clear language creates a clearer mind. A clearer mind makes better decisions. It also helps to reduce the habit of immediate replies. Not every message needs an instant answer. Not every comment needs a comeback. Not every problem needs your full emotional energy within seconds. A wise person knows that delay can be a form of strength. A short pause before replying protects you from saying things you will regret. It also teaches others that your reactions are thoughtful, not impulsive. That changes how people treat you and how you treat yourself. Another important step is to separate facts from feelings. A fact is what happened. A feeling is what it meant to you in that moment. Both matter, but they are not the same. Someone forgetting to call you is a fact. Telling yourself they do not care about you is a meaning. A task taking longer than planned is a fact. Telling yourself you are failing is a meaning. When you can separate the two, you become less vulnerable to emotional storms. You stop turning every event into a judgment about your worth. This is especially important because many people carry a hidden habit of personalizing everything. They assume delay means rejection. They assume criticism means they are not good enough. They assume disagreement means disrespect. They assume a mistake means failure. When you personalize every small thing, your mind never rests. You become easy to disturb. You start living in defense mode. Calm response breaks that pattern by asking a better question. What actually happened? What is the real problem? What is the next useful step? Sometimes the next useful step is very small. Send the message later. Take a walk. Drink water. Finish the task after a short break. Apologize if needed. Ask for clarity. Correct the mistake. Move on. Small useful steps are powerful because they return action. They stop the mind from spinning. The longer you stay in reaction, the more control the problem seems to have. Action restores balance. There is a quiet dignity in a person who does not make everything dramatic. Such a person does not need to prove strength through noise. They are steady. They are thoughtful. They are not careless with words. They know that anger can be loud, but wisdom is often calm. They know that a controlled response is more impressive than an uncontrolled outburst. They know that self-mastery is built in ordinary moments, not in grand speeches. If you want this strength in your own life, start with the first 10 seconds. 10 seconds before you answer. 10 seconds before you send the text. 10 seconds before you argue. 10 seconds before you decide the meaning of the event. In those 10 seconds, ask yourself what response will help me most later, not what feels satisfying now, not what will make me feel powerful for 1 minute. What will help me most later? That question changes everything. It pulls your mind out of impulse and into purpose. There is also value in accepting that some small things will always happen. You will still face delays. You will still hear things you do not like. You will still make mistakes. You will still meet people who are careless. A calm life does not mean a problem-free life. It means you stop expecting perfect days before you allow yourself to be steady. This is a major shift. When you stop demanding that life behave well before you behave well, you become harder to disturb. A calm response is built through repeated choices. One choice will not change everything, but many small choices will change your character. Each time you stay composed, you strengthen a habit. Each time you pause, you teach your mind a new pattern. Each time you refuse to overreact, you build trust in yourself. Over time, your nervous system begins to feel the difference. You stop living as if every minor issue is an emergency. Your body learns that you are safe, even when life is imperfect. This is one reason daily reflection helps. At the end of the day, ask yourself where you reacted too fast and where you stayed calm. Do not do this to punish yourself. Do it to learn. Growth becomes much easier when you review your day with honesty. You might notice that your biggest stress came from one small thing you kept replaying in your head. You might notice that one calm response prevented a bigger problem. These lessons matter because they show you where your power is leaking and where it is growing. Many people believe peace comes from having easier circumstances. But calm people are often not living easier lives. They have simply learned how to meet life differently. They do not waste their strength on every passing problem. They choose what deserves attention. They understand that not everything deserves a reaction. That understanding is freeing. It gives you more time for what matters. It gives you more emotional space. It gives you a quieter mind. One practical way to train this is to create a rule for yourself. When upset, do not send messages right away. When angry, do not make decisions right away. When embarrassed, do not speak against yourself right away. Give each feeling a chance to settle before you act. This rule can save you from many regrets. It can also help you build self-respect because you will know that your emotions do not run your life. Another practice is to lower the volume of your inner criticism. Many people speak to themselves in a harsh way that makes every small mistake feel bigger. They say they are foolish or weak or hopeless over minor things. That kind of self-talk makes calm response harder because the mind becomes more tense. You do not need to praise every action. You do need to speak to yourself with fairness. A fair voice helps you recover. A cruel voice keeps the wound open. When life gets noisy, return to what is in your control. You cannot control every comment. You cannot control every delay. You cannot control every mood around you. But you can control your attention. You can control your tone. You can control the next right action. You can control how long you stay in resentment. You can control whether you make a small issue into a whole day of suffering. This is where self-respect is built. Not in perfect control of events, in control of your response. The more you practice this, the more you see a pattern. Many of the things that used to disturb you were not as powerful as they seemed. They were just loud. They were just immediate. They were just uncomfortable. Once you stop feeding them with fear, they shrink. Not every problem disappears, but your relationship to problems changes. You become less available to panic. You become less open to emotional traps. You become more grounded in what is real. This chapter is not asking you to ignore life. It is asking you to meet it with maturity. Maturity means you do not need every moment to feel good before you can act well. Maturity means you can be bothered without being broken. Maturity means you can feel pressure and still behave with care. Maturity means you stop letting the smallest things decide the quality of your day. There is deep freedom in that. Imagine living with a mind that does not get hijacked by every inconvenience. Imagine speaking with more patience. Imagine thinking more clearly. Imagine protecting your peace without becoming passive. Imagine being able to sit with discomfort and still move forward. That kind of life is available to you. It begins with one decision to respond rather than react. The next time something small tries to pull you off center, remember this. You do not have to answer every moment with intensity. You do not have to make every problem louder. You do not have to surrender your peace to something temporary. Slow down, breathe, see clearly, choose carefully. Speak only when your words can help. Act only when your action is useful. This is how calm becomes strength. Over time, these choices will shape your life in visible ways. Your relationships will improve because people will feel safer around your steadiness. Your work will improve because your mind will be less scattered. Your confidence will improve because you will trust yourself to handle pressure. Your days will feel less heavy because you will stop carrying every small thing as if it were a burden meant for your whole life. You will become more useful to yourself and more valuable to the people around you. That is the real lesson here. Small things only control your life when you give them your focus, your energy, and your immediate reaction. Take those back, guard them carefully, treat your peace as something precious, treat your response as something powerful. Each day gives you chances to practice. Some will be easy and some will test you. Use all of them. Build the habit of calm in ordinary moments, so it is there when the hard moments come. You do not need to wait for a better life to begin living with discipline. You do not need to wait for fewer problems to start acting with wisdom. You can begin now, right now, with the next annoyance, the next delay, the next sharp comment, the next uncomfortable feeling. Pause before you react. Choose the response that supports the person you are becoming. That choice may seem small in the moment. It is not small. It is the beginning of a life that belongs to you instead of to every passing disturbance. Stay steady. Stay clear. Stay responsible for your own mind. The world will keep offering small things that try to steal your peace. Your job is to refuse the handoff. Your job is to remain calm long enough for wisdom to lead. And when you do that again and again, you will discover something important. The small things do not disappear, but they stop controlling you. That is where real strength starts. Chapter 2. Practice daily focus to reduce needless mental clutter. Mental clutter is one of the quiet reasons people feel tired before the day even begins. It does not always come from major problems. Often it comes from too many thoughts left unfinished in the mind. A message you have not answered. A task you keep postponing. A worry you keep replaying. A plan you have not decided on. A comparison you wish you could stop making. One by one, these things seem harmless. Put together, they fill the mind with noise and make it harder to think clearly. Daily focus is how you clear that noise before it becomes a habit. Focus is not something only highly disciplined people are born with. It is something you build by choosing what deserves your attention and what does not. Every day your mind will try to carry more than it should. It will try to revisit old conversations. It will try to predict problems that have not happened. It will try to hold 10 unfinished thoughts at once. That constant mental movement drains energy. It weakens your ability to think well. It makes even simple work feel heavier than it should. When your focus is scattered, your life feels scattered too. The solution is not to force your mind into silence all at once. The solution is to train it to stay with one thing at a time. Start with the first part of your morning. Before you give your attention away to screens, messages, and outside noise, decide what deserves your mind today. Not everything deserves equal weight. A peaceful day begins when you choose your direction before the world starts pulling at you. A clear mind begins when you stop allowing every interruption to act like an emergency. Ask yourself what matters most today, not what is interesting, not what is loud, what is truly useful. Maybe it is finishing one important task. Maybe it is having one honest conversation. Maybe it is cleaning a space that has been bothering you. Maybe it is reading for 20 minutes. Maybe it is taking care of your health instead of giving your energy to distractions. Focus grows when you keep the day simple enough to handle. A mind trying to do everything usually ends up doing very little well. One reason mental clutter becomes so heavy is because unfinished tasks stay alive in the background of the mind. You may not be thinking about them directly, but they still take space. They sit there like open tabs in your head. One practical way to reduce this is to write things down. Do not trust your memory to carry everything. Put tasks, decisions, and concerns onto paper or into a notes app. When your mind knows something has been stored safely, it relaxes. That alone can bring relief. A clearer outer system creates a clearer inner space. Daily focus also means giving full attention to the task in front of you, instead of half attention to 5 things at once. Multitasking often feels productive, but it usually creates more mental noise than real progress. When you switch constantly from one thing to another, your mind pays a hidden cost. It takes longer to settle. It becomes more tired. It makes more mistakes. One task done with full attention is better than 5 tasks done with divided attention. This is not laziness. This is discipline. There is something powerful about doing one thing well. It teaches your mind order. It restores confidence. It proves that you are not at the mercy of every distraction. You can begin with short periods of single focus. Work for a set amount of time without checking your phone. Read without interruptions. Eat without scrolling. Listen without planning your reply. Finish a small project before starting the next one. These are simple acts, but they train the brain to stop darting in every direction. Mental clutter also comes from too much input. Many people fill every free moment with videos, posts, opinions, and alerts. The mind is never given time to breathe. It keeps receiving and receiving until nothing feels clear anymore. A wiser approach is to create quiet parts of the day. Even a few minutes of stillness can help. Sit without reaching for the phone. Walk without listening to anything. Drive without extra noise if it is safe. Allow your thoughts to settle. Quiet is not wasted time. Quiet is where clarity returns. You also need to be careful with what you let into your mind. Not every conversation is useful. Not every trend is worth your attention. Not every opinion needs to live in your head. Some things are designed to disturb you. Some are designed to keep you hooked. Some are designed to make you compare yourself or feel behind. Daily focus means protecting your attention like it matters, because it does. Your life follows the shape of what you pay attention to. Feed your mind with too much noise, and you will struggle to hear your own judgment. A focused person knows how to return quickly when the mind wanders. That is important because distraction is normal. The problem is not that you drift. The problem is staying lost for too long. When you notice your mind has gone elsewhere, bring it back without anger. Do not scold yourself, simply return. Again and again if needed. Each return is part of the training. Over time, the mind learns that wandering is not where it gets to stay. This builds strength in a quiet way. One of the best ways to reduce mental clutter is to stop carrying unnecessary decisions all day long. Too many small choices can exhaust the mind. Build simple routines so you do not have to decide everything from scratch. Keep parts of your day predictable. Choose a regular time to work. Choose a regular place for important items. Choose a small morning routine that helps you begin with direction. The less chaos around basic matters, the more mental space you have for the things that truly require thought. Your inner life becomes lighter when your outer life becomes more organized. A messy room can create a messy mind. A cluttered desk can make it harder to think. A disordered schedule can leave you feeling behind before the day starts. You do not need perfection. You need enough order to support your attention. When your surroundings are clear, your mind has less to fight against. Small practical cleanup often creates a large mental shift. Focus is also connected to purpose. People who know what they are working toward are easier to guide. People who do not know their direction get pulled by everything. Ask yourself what kind of person you are trying to become. Not in a vague way, in a daily way. More disciplined, more patient, more reliable, more honest, more consistent. When you keep that picture in mind, it becomes easier to ignore distractions that do not serve it. Purpose gives your attention a reason to stay where it belongs. A distracted life often feels busy but not meaningful. A focused life may look quieter from the outside, yet it produces real progress. That is because focus converts energy into results. It turns intention into movement. It allows you to finish things instead of just thinking about them. It gives you the satisfaction of knowing that your day contains substance. That feeling matters. It builds self-respect. It reduces regret. It helps you end the day with less mental weight. There will be days when your mind resists focus. On those days, do not wait for motivation. Use structure. Begin with one small task. Set a short timer. Remove one distraction. Make one decision. Clean one space. Read one page. Complete one small action, and let momentum build from there. Focus is often not found in a sudden burst of energy. It is created by starting before you feel ready. The first step is the hardest. After that, the mind often settles. You should also be honest about what drains your attention. Some people are most distracted by social media. Some are distracted by worry. Some are distracted by unnecessary conversations. Some are distracted by the urge to keep checking for updates. Identify your own weak points without shame. Once you know them, you can create limits. Put distance between yourself and what keeps breaking your concentration. Discipline is not only about willpower, it is about wise design. Make the right choice easier. As your daily focus grows, your mind becomes less crowded and your decisions become clearer. You stop overloading yourself with things that do not matter. You begin to notice that many of the thoughts making you tired were never essential in the first place. That realization is powerful. It gives you permission to let go. It tells you that your mind was not meant to carry every voice, every worry, and every distraction. It was meant to think clearly and act wisely. A focused day is not a perfect day. It is a directed day. It is a day where your attention has a home. It is a day where you spend yourself on what matters rather than what merely demands attention. That is how mental clutter loses its power. Not through a single dramatic moment, but through repeated choices that protect your mind. Choose one thing, then the next, then the next. Keep clearing the path. Keep returning to the task. Keep guarding your attention. That is how a person becomes steady. That is how a person stops feeling buried under unimportant noise. That is how a person builds a mind that can think clearly in a noisy world. Focus is not a luxury. It is a form of self-respect. It is how you honor your time. It is how you protect your energy. It is how you make room for growth. Each day you have a chance to decide what gets your mind and what does not. Use that chance well, and your life will begin to feel lighter, more organized, and more under your control. Chapter 3. Build strong boundaries around your time and energy. Many people believe exhaustion comes only from hard work. Sometimes it does. But often exhaustion comes from giving too much of yourself in too many directions without protection. It comes from saying yes when your mind is already overwhelmed. It comes from answering every request as if your needs should always wait. It comes from feeling responsible for everyone while slowly neglecting yourself. Over time, this becomes a habit. A person begins to live for demands instead of values. Days become full but not meaningful. Energy disappears without creating peace. Your time is limited. Your energy is limited. This is not negative thinking. It is reality. The sooner you respect these limits, the sooner your life becomes more intentional. A person with no boundaries often believes they are being kind. Sometimes they are. But kindness without limits can turn into resentment. Generosity without awareness can become self-neglect. Helping others while abandoning yourself is not balance. It creates quiet frustration that builds over years. Strong boundaries are not walls that keep everyone away. They are decisions about what deserves access to you. They protect what matters. They allow you to remain useful without becoming depleted. They help you show up fully instead of showing up tired and distracted. Boundaries are not selfish when they preserve your ability to live with integrity. Many people fear boundaries because they worry others will be disappointed. That fear keeps them trapped. They continue agreeing to things they do not want. They continue tolerating behavior that drains them. They continue making room for habits and people that leave them exhausted. Then one day they wonder why they feel disconnected from themselves. The answer is often simple. They spent too long ignoring their own limits. Discomfort appears when you start changing this pattern. People who benefited from unlimited access to your time may not understand. They may expect the old version of you. The version that always adjusted. The version that always made space even when it came at a cost. Growth sometimes requires disappointing expectations that were built on your silence. That does not make you wrong. Learning to say no is one of the most practical forms of self-respect. Yet many people avoid it because they think no must sound harsh. It does not. A calm refusal can still be respectful. You can decline without explaining every detail. You can choose rest without guilt. You can protect your schedule without feeling cruel. No is not rejection of people. Sometimes it is protection of purpose. Think about how many hours disappear through automatic agreement, extra commitments, unplanned conversations, endless scrolling. Requests accepted from pressure rather than intention. Small losses of time often seem harmless in the moment. Repeated daily, they become years spent away from what matters most. Boundaries begin when you notice where your attention goes and ask whether it reflects your priorities. Your priorities become visible through your schedule, not through promises, not through intentions, through actual time spent. If health matters but receives no attention, then something is out of alignment. If growth matters but distractions dominate the day, then your boundaries need strengthening. Looking honestly at your patterns may feel uncomfortable. Honest observation often does. Yet discomfort is useful when it reveals where change is needed. There is a quiet difference between being available and being constantly accessible. Constant accessibility trains people to expect immediate responses. It trains your own mind to remain alert all the time. This creates tension. Rest becomes difficult because mentally you never leave duty behind. You deserve moments where your attention belongs fully to your own life. Protecting those moments is important. Some people carry an invisible belief that their worth comes from being needed. This belief can become dangerous. It leads them to overextend repeatedly. They become the person who solves every issue while quietly ignoring their own. At first, this may earn praise. Eventually, it often produces fatigue. Your value does not increase because you sacrifice every limit. Your value does not depend on endless availability. Healthy boundaries require awareness of emotional energy as much as time. Certain interactions leave you encouraged. Others leave you drained for hours. Pay attention to this. Energy is information. It shows where balance exists and where imbalance grows. You do not need to remove every difficult person from your life. You do need to recognize patterns. Repeated exposure to unnecessary negativity changes your inner state. Some conversations revolve around complaints without solutions. Some relationships depend on guilt. Some environments create constant tension. If you stay in these spaces too long, without boundaries, your mind absorbs the weight. Eventually, you stop noticing because exhaustion feels normal. But normal does not always mean healthy. You have the right to step back from cycles that damage your peace. Stepping back is not weakness, it is discernment. A wise person learns that preserving mental strength allows better decisions later. Constant emotional strain reduces clarity. It shortens patience. It weakens judgment. Protection of energy is practical. One useful habit is asking a simple question before accepting new obligations. Does this align with the life I want to build, or does it pull me away from it? The answer may become clearer than expected. Many commitments survive because they were never examined. Once examined, they lose their power. Boundaries also apply to your own habits. Sometimes the person crossing your limits most often is you. Stay awake too late repeatedly. Ignoring rest. Filling every quiet moment with stimulation. Delaying important tasks while giving endless attention to minor distractions. Discipline means creating limits around behaviors that weaken you. A person without internal boundaries struggles even if external pressures decrease. Freedom without structure often becomes chaos. Structure creates support. It reduces decision fatigue. It protects important goals from temporary impulses. Internal boundaries sound like this. I stop working at this time. I exercise even when motivation is low. I avoid habits that leave me depleted. I keep promises made to myself. Keeping promises to yourself builds trust. Self-trust changes how you move through life. When you know your own word matters, you become steadier. Decisions feel less uncertain. Confidence grows quietly through consistency rather than dramatic moments. Boundaries improve relationships more than many realize. Clear expectations reduce resentment. Honest communication prevents confusion. People often respect clarity more than hidden frustration. Saying yes while feeling bitter damages connection over time. Speaking truthfully with kindness protects it. There will always be people who misunderstand your limits. Some may interpret boundaries as distance. Others may resist because your growth changes familiar patterns. Their reaction cannot become the measure of whether your choices are healthy. Not every disagreement means you are wrong. Sometimes it means the relationship is adjusting. Strong boundaries create room for recovery. Recovery is essential because life requires energy. Challenges arrive, responsibilities increase, unexpected difficulties appear. Without periods of renewal, your capacity weakens. Rest should not be treated as a reward earned only after collapse. Rest is maintenance. Maintenance prevents collapse. Observe nature for a moment. Day turns into night. Activity alternates with stillness. Growth includes pauses. Human beings often resist this rhythm. They push continuously and wonder why joy disappears. Constant output without renewal eventually empties even determined people. Protecting time for reflection matters too. Reflection allows you to notice whether your actions match your values. Without reflection, life becomes reactive. Days pass quickly while deeper questions remain unanswered. Where is my energy going? What keeps draining me? What deserves more attention? Honest reflection strengthens boundaries because awareness precedes change. Technology deserves careful boundaries as well. Devices offer convenience but also endless interruption. Notifications compete for your focus. Hours disappear through habits formed without intention. Ask whether your attention serves your goals or serves algorithms designed to hold it. This question matters because repeated distraction fragments your life. Every minute given away carelessly cannot return. This is not meant to create fear. It is meant to create appreciation. Time is valuable because it is finite. Recognizing this changes decisions. You become less willing to spend entire evenings on things that add little meaning. You become more protective of moments with people you care about. You become more deliberate. Strong boundaries are visible in small choices, leaving a conversation when necessary, declining commitments beyond capacity, turning off distractions during important work, choosing sleep over another hour of mindless activity, speaking honestly instead of agreeing automatically. These choices seem ordinary. Repeated consistently, they reshape a life. You do not build boundaries in one day. You strengthen them through practice. At first, discomfort appears because old patterns resist change. Continue anyway. Growth often feels unfamiliar before it feels natural. Over time, protecting your energy stops feeling selfish and starts feeling responsible. A calm person is not someone with fewer demands. Often, they have simply learned where to place limits. They know that everything cannot receive equal access to their attention. They understand that protecting inner stability supports better action in the outside world. Imagine reaching the end of a day with energy still available for what matters most. Imagine relationships chosen with intention. Imagine work done with focus instead of constant interruption. Imagine carrying less resentment because your choices align with your capacity. This becomes more possible when boundaries strengthen. Your life cannot be shaped only by what others need from you. It must also be shaped by what you believe matters. Otherwise, years pass while your own priorities remain postponed. Few regrets feel heavier than realizing you abandoned important parts of yourself through endless accommodation. Respect your limits before exhaustion teaches them harshly. Honor your energy before depletion becomes familiar. Guard your time before distraction claims it. These actions do not separate you from meaningful living. They make meaningful living sustainable. The strongest people are not always those who endure the most. Often they are those who understand what deserves endurance and what requires distance. Wisdom includes knowing the difference. Your attention is valuable. Your peace is valuable. Your effort is valuable. Treat them accordingly. Build boundaries that allow your life to grow in the direction you choose, instead of the direction constant demands create. With practice, your days become less crowded by obligation and more guided by purpose. That shift changes more than schedules. It changes identity. You begin living as someone who protects what matters, rather than someone who constantly recovers from giving too much away. Chapter 4. Replace overthinking with clear decisions and quick action. Many people spend years waiting for certainty before they move. They believe one more day of thinking will remove all risk. They tell themselves they need more clarity before making a choice. More information, more confidence, more proof that things will work out. Yet while they continue searching for perfect certainty, life keeps moving. Opportunities pass quietly. Habits become stronger, fear grows roots. The person who waits too long often mistakes hesitation for preparation. Overthinking rarely announces itself as a problem. It disguises itself as caution. It appears responsible on the surface. You tell yourself you are being careful. You say you are considering every possibility. But beneath that process, something else may be happening. You may be avoiding discomfort. You may be protecting yourself from failure. You may be delaying because action would force you to face uncertainty. The mind can become trapped in endless loops. One thought leads to another, and then another. You revisit old decisions. You imagine conversations before they happen. You create outcomes in your head and respond emotionally to events that have not occurred. Hours disappear. Energy disappears. Nothing changes in reality because thinking alone cannot build a different life. Thought has value when it leads somewhere useful. Reflection matters. Planning matters. Wisdom matters. But there is a point where thinking stops serving and starts imprisoning. That point arrives when analysis replaces movement. A decision delayed repeatedly begins to carry its own cost. Inaction shapes life just as surely as action does. Imagine standing before a closed door while debating every possible outcome behind it. You remain outside for months. Meanwhile, someone else opens the door with imperfect confidence and learns from whatever appears inside. Which person gains experience? Which person adapts faster? Which person develops resilience? Growth usually belongs to those willing to act before feeling completely ready. A clear decision does not require perfect certainty. It requires enough understanding to move responsibly. This distinction changes everything. Waiting for guarantees creates paralysis because life offers few guarantees. Learning to decide with incomplete information creates momentum. Momentum matters more than many realize. Once you begin moving, the mind often becomes clearer. Action reveals information unavailable through thought alone. You understand work by doing it. You understand relationships by participating. You understand your strengths by testing them. Some lessons arrive only through experience. Overthinking often begins with fear of making mistakes. Yet, mistakes are not always the enemy. Many mistakes become teachers when pride does not interfere. A person who never risks error remains inexperienced. A person willing to learn develops judgment over time. Judgment grows through repeated choices, not endless observation. There is another hidden cost to constant mental replay. It steals presence. You may sit with family while mentally revisiting something from yesterday. You may work while imagining future problems. Your body stays in one place while attention travels elsewhere. This division weakens the quality of your life. Moments become blurred because your mind rarely arrives fully. A practical way to interrupt overthinking is to ask one direct question. What decision is actually required here? Not every thought deserves extended attention. Reduce the situation to its essential point. Often confusion decreases when complexity is removed. The mind tends to create layers around simple issues. Strip them away. If you need to choose between two paths, ask what aligns more closely with your values. If you need to address a problem, ask what first step creates progress. If you need to begin something, ask what action can happen within the next hour. Bring decisions closer to the present. Large, vague questions overwhelm. Small, concrete actions create movement. There is strength in becoming someone who trusts their ability to respond after deciding. Many people seek confidence before acting. Confidence often arrives after repeated action. It grows through evidence. You keep promises to yourself. You handle difficulty. You recover from setbacks. Eventually, your mind learns something important. I may not control outcomes, but I can face them. This belief reduces hesitation. You stop needing certainty because you trust your capacity to adapt. Adaptation becomes more valuable than prediction. Life changes quickly. The person trained only in prediction struggles when reality shifts. The person trained in response remains steadier. Overthinking can also become a habit reinforced by environment. If people around you fear every mistake, you may absorb that mindset. If caution is praised while initiative is criticized, you may begin doubting every choice. Awareness helps break inherited patterns. Ask whether your hesitation belongs to your own values or someone else's fears. Your body often reveals overthinking before your mind admits it. Restlessness, difficulty sleeping, tightness in the chest, trouble concentrating, fatigue without physical effort. Constant mental activity affects physical state. The nervous system struggles to distinguish between imagined threats and immediate ones. This is one reason unresolved thought loops become exhausting. Action changes this relationship. Completing tasks reduces tension. Making decisions frees mental space. Speaking the difficult truth ends prolonged internal debate. Beginning the project interrupts fear built through postponement. Reality becomes easier to manage than anticipation. Some individuals spend years preparing for lives they never start. They collect advice endlessly. They read without applying. They plan without testing. Preparation has value until it becomes avoidance. Knowledge unused eventually turns heavy. Wisdom grows when understanding enters behavior. Think about areas where delay repeats. Health, work, relationships, personal goals. Which promises remain unfinished? Which decisions stay suspended? Patterns reveal where fear may have taken control. Honest observation matters because what remains unnamed often remains unchanged. Replacing overthinking does not mean becoming reckless. Recklessness ignores consequences. Clarity considers consequences, then moves forward. One comes from impulse, the other comes from discipline. Disciplined action accepts uncertainty without surrendering to it. Create limits around decision-making when possible. Give yourself reasonable time to reflect, then choose. Endless reconsideration weakens trust in yourself. Every completed decision strengthens that trust. The result matters less than the habit of choosing with integrity. Another useful practice involves separating reversible decisions from irreversible ones. Many choices feel enormous because emotion enlarges them. Yet some decisions can be adjusted later. Careers shift, methods change, strategies evolve. Treating every choice as permanent increases fear unnecessarily. Understanding flexibility creates freedom. Overthinking often grows strongest around identity. You may wonder whether you are capable enough, smart enough, experienced enough, worthy enough. These questions rarely disappear through contemplation alone. Competence develops through repeated attempts. Worth is not earned by flawless performance. Human beings learn through imperfect effort. The person admired for confidence was once uncertain. The person respected for skill was once inexperienced. The person capable of handling pressure once struggled under smaller burdens. Development requires participation. No one builds resilience by remaining untouched by challenge. One reason quick action matters is because emotion changes over time. Motivation fades, fear expands. Excitement decreases. Taking action while intention is clear prevents unnecessary delay. Send the application. Begin the workout. Make the appointment. Write the first page. Have the conversation. Small beginnings carry more power than dramatic intentions postponed indefinitely. Your future does not require endless internal debate. It requires repeated movement in useful directions. Not every step must be large. Consistency outweighs intensity over long periods. Quiet, disciplined effort changes, lives more often than occasional bursts of inspiration. There will be decisions that still feel difficult. You may choose and later question yourself. This happens. Doubt sometimes follows action. Do not interpret temporary doubt as proof of failure. Stay with your choice long enough to gather evidence. Constant switching prevents depth. You become stronger each time you survive an imperfect outcome. The mind learns that mistakes are uncomfortable but manageable. Recovery builds courage. Courage is not absence of fear. Courage is willingness to proceed while uncertainty remains present. Imagine living with less mental noise. Imagine spending fewer nights replaying possibilities. Imagine trusting yourself enough to choose and continue. This does not create a problem-free life. It creates a life less controlled by hesitation, A clear decision sends a message inward. It says my thoughts do not command endless attention. It says I respect my ability to adapt. It says movement matters. These messages reshape identity slowly. Over time, you stop seeing yourself as someone trapped in uncertainty. You begin seeing yourself as someone capable of responding. That shift is powerful because identity influences behavior. When you believe you are decisive, you practice decisiveness. When you believe you handle challenges, you approach them differently. Repeated actions become evidence. Evidence becomes belief. Your life changes through accumulated choices. Not every decision transforms everything immediately, yet direction forms through repetition. Small acts performed consistently alter outcomes over years. Delay repeated consistently does the same. The next time your mind circles endlessly around a question, pause and ask something simpler. What action serves me now? Not next month, not after complete certainty arrives. Now. Answer honestly, then move. Movement teaches. Experience clarifies. Effort reveals. Progress belongs less to those who know everything and more to those willing to begin, despite incomplete knowledge. You were not meant to spend your whole life preparing. You were meant to participate. You were meant to discover what happens when intention becomes action. Replace endless internal debate with decisions guided by values. Replace fear of mistakes with willingness to learn. Replace waiting with movement. Years from now, you will not remember every worry that delayed you. You will remember the moments you acted despite uncertainty and became stronger because of it. That strength is built one decision at a time, one action at a time, one step taken before perfect confidence appears. Choose, act, adjust, continue. The mind becomes clearer when it stops carrying the weight of unfinished choices, and with each purposeful action you reclaim something valuable from overthinking. You reclaim time. You reclaim energy. Most importantly, you reclaim ownership over the direction of your life. Chapter 5. Train patience when frustration tries to control you. Frustration has a way of arriving without warning. A plan changes unexpectedly. Someone misunderstands you. Progress takes longer than expected. Effort goes unnoticed. You repeat yourself and still feel unheard. You work hard and the results remain distant. In these moments, something inside begins to tighten. The mind becomes restless. The body becomes tense. Thoughts speed up. A simple problem starts feeling heavier because frustration whispers that things should be different by now. Most people think patience means waiting quietly. Patience is far deeper than waiting. Patience is how you carry yourself while waiting. It is the ability to remain steady when reality refuses to move at the pace you prefer. It is discipline during delay. It is emotional control during inconvenience. It is strength that does not demand immediate relief. Frustration often grows from expectation. You expect people to understand you faster. You expect success to arrive sooner. You expect change to happen after enough effort. Expectations are not wrong, but when expectations become rigid, every obstacle feels personal. Every delay feels unfair. The mind starts arguing with reality. That argument creates suffering because reality rarely changes simply because you dislike it. Training patience begins with recognizing this truth. Life does not owe immediate results. Effort does not always produce instant reward. People do not always behave according to your standards. Once you accept these realities, frustration loses some of its power. Acceptance does not mean surrender. Acceptance means seeing clearly before responding. Think about moments when impatience created problems larger than the original issue. Words spoken too quickly. Decisions made while angry. Opportunities abandoned because progress felt slow. Relationships strained because expectations exceeded understanding. Impatience pushes people toward actions they later regret. Patience creates space. Inside that space, wiser responses become possible. Many believe patient people are naturally calm. More often, patience is learned through repeated discomfort. It develops when someone faces delays and chooses not to become bitter. It develops when plans fail and they continue anyway. Patience is not personality, it is practice. One of the first things to understand is that frustration itself is information. It points towards something. Perhaps a value feels threatened. Perhaps exhaustion is present. Perhaps unmet expectations have accumulated quietly. Instead of immediately reacting, ask what frustration is trying to reveal. Curiosity interrupts automatic response. For example, you may become irritated over a minor inconvenience. Later you realize the irritation had little to do with the event itself. Lack of sleep played a role. Ongoing stress contributed. Unspoken worries added weight. Emotional reactions often carry hidden layers. Looking beneath them increases self-understanding. This is why self-awareness matters more than suppression. Ignoring frustration does not remove it. Pretending patience while resentment grows internally creates another problem. Real patience includes honesty. You acknowledge difficulty without allowing it to control behavior. Observe how frustration changes your thoughts. The mind begins creating absolute statements. Nothing works. This always happens. People never listen. I cannot handle this anymore. These thoughts feel convincing because emotion intensifies them. Yet, they are often exaggerated. Patience requires questioning dramatic conclusions produced in temporary states. A useful practice is reducing the moment to facts. What actually happened? What remains within my influence? What response supports long-term well-being? These questions guide attention away from emotional chaos toward practical clarity. There are situations where impatience appears reasonable. You want improvement. You care deeply. You desire progress. Yet even meaningful goals require endurance. A person learning new skills experiences slow growth. A person healing emotionally encounters setbacks. A person building something valuable often works long before visible rewards appear. Without patience, many worthwhile efforts end too early. Modern life trains impatience. Immediate messages, fast entertainment, constant updates, quick delivery. Gradually the mind becomes uncomfortable with waiting. Small delays begin feeling intolerable. This conditioning affects deeper areas of life, relationships, career development, personal growth. The expectation of speed enters places where maturity requires time. Training patience means becoming comfortable with gradual progress again. It means respecting processes that cannot be rushed. Seeds do not grow faster because you demand it. Recovery does not accelerate because frustration increases. Character develops through repeated choices across years, not days. One overlooked form of patience involves how you treat yourself. Many people demand constant improvement without allowing room for mistakes. They criticize themselves harshly for slow progress. They compare their journey to others and conclude they are behind. This creates internal pressure that drains motivation. Growth becomes more sustainable when discipline includes compassion. Compassion does not lower standards. It changes tone. Instead of saying I should already be better, you say I am learning and continuing. This difference matters. Harshness may create temporary pressure. Patience creates lasting resilience. Consider how often frustration emerges from wanting certainty. You want guarantees before moving forward. You want assurance that effort will succeed. Yet much of life unfolds without complete certainty. Patience allows movement despite unanswered questions. It accepts incomplete information while remaining committed. The strongest individuals are not always those who experience fewer frustrations. Often they have simply learned not to obey every impulse created by discomfort. They understand emotions shift. What feels unbearable now may feel manageable tomorrow. This understanding prevents unnecessary reactions. Physical habits influence patience more than many realize. Chronic exhaustion reduces tolerance. Poor rest weakens emotional regulation. Constant overstimulation shortens attention. Caring for the body supports steadiness of mind. Patience becomes harder when the nervous system remains strained. Breathing patterns also matter during frustrating moments. Shallow breathing often accompanies tension. Slowing breath signals safety to the body. The mind follows. This does not solve external problems immediately, but it changes internal conditions for responding. Patience is visible in ordinary situations. Waiting in traffic without carrying irritation into the rest of the day. Accepting setbacks during work without abandoning effort. Listening fully before defending yourself. Remaining respectful when misunderstood. These moments seem small. Repeated over years, they shape character. People often admire composure without recognizing the training behind it. Calm responses usually result from many earlier choices. Someone learned to pause. Someone practiced restraint. Someone discovered that immediate reaction rarely improves difficult moments. Patience also protects relationships. Human beings disappoint each other. Miscommunication happens. Stress influences behavior. Expecting perfection creates endless frustration. Patience does not excuse harmful actions, but it creates room for understanding where appropriate. It allows conversations to happen without unnecessary escalation. There are times when patience means enduring discomfort while continuing toward a goal. There are other times when patience means stepping back and allowing circumstances to unfold naturally. Wisdom involves knowing the difference. Not every situation improves through force. Imagine carrying less urgency around things beyond your control. Imagine facing delays without feeling personally attacked by them. Imagine responding to challenges with steadiness rather than agitation. This shift changes daily experience. The world feels less hostile when every inconvenience no longer becomes a battle. One practical exercise involves extending tolerance intentionally. Choose situations where mild frustration appears and practice remaining calm. Slow lines, minor mistakes, small interruptions. Treat these moments as training rather than punishment. Emotional endurance grows through exposure combined with conscious response. Patience strengthens identity because it teaches something important. You are capable of experiencing discomfort without collapsing into it. This realization builds confidence. Confidence built through endurance differs from confidence built through praise. It remains steadier because it has been tested. When frustration rises, ask yourself whether urgency is real or emotional. Many situations feel urgent because discomfort seeks immediate escape. Distinguishing between actual emergencies and emotional pressure prevents impulsive decisions. Over time, patience changes your relationship with obstacles. Instead of viewing them solely as interruptions, you begin seeing them as opportunities to refine character. Not romanticize difficulty. Refine through it. Challenges become places where steadiness is practiced. The person who learns patience gains something valuable. Freedom from constant emotional reaction. Freedom from needing life to move according to exact timelines. Freedom from turning temporary delays into lasting distress. There will still be frustrating days. Patience does not remove difficulty. It changes how difficulty is carried. The weight becomes more manageable because resistance decreases. You stop demanding immediate resolution from every uncomfortable moment. Think about who you become when frustration no longer controls your responses. Your words change, decisions improve, relationships deepen, energy is preserved. Respect for yourself increases because you know emotions do not dictate behavior. This transformation happens gradually, not through one lesson. Through repeated choices, through moments when irritation appears and you remain measured. Through days when progress feels slow and you continue. Through experiences where uncertainty remains and you endure without surrendering dignity. Your future will contain delays, unexpected problems, human imperfections, slow seasons. Patience prepares you for these realities better than constant urgency ever could. It teaches endurance without bitterness, effort without desperation, commitment without panic. Train yourself to remain present when frustration arrives. Notice it, understand it, refuse to let it lead. Then continue with clarity, continue with discipline, continue with the quiet strength that grows when patience becomes part of who you are, because eventually something changes. Difficulties that once overwhelmed you become manageable. Delays that once angered you lose intensity. You discover greater control not over circumstances but over yourself. That discovery is powerful. Patience is not passive. Patience is active self-command. It is choosing long-term wisdom over immediate reaction. It is preserving character when emotions demand surrender. It is one of the deepest forms of strength because few things are harder than remaining steady, while life refuses to hurry, and each time you succeed, even in small moments, you prove something to yourself. You prove that frustration can visit without becoming your master. You prove that discomfort can exist without directing your choices. You prove that calm endurance is possible. That proof changes how you meet the world. It changes how you meet yourself. Chapter 6. Strengthen your habits by keeping promises to yourself. There is a quiet disappointment that grows inside people when they repeatedly break promises to themselves. It does not arrive all at once. It builds slowly. You decide to wake up earlier and stop after 3 days. You plan to exercise but postpone it again. You promise to save money yet continue spending without intention. You tell yourself this week will be different and then return to familiar habits before the week ends. Over time, something deeper happens. The issue is no longer the missed goal. The issue becomes trust. Most people understand the importance of keeping promises to others. They know reliability builds respect. They know consistency strengthens relationships. Yet many ignore the promises made in private. The commitments spoken silently in the mind receive less protection. This creates an invisible divide. You begin wanting better things for your life while doubting your ability to follow through. Self-trust is one of the strongest foundations a person can build. Without it, goals feel distant because part of you no longer believes your own intentions. With it, challenges become easier to face because you know your actions can support your words. Self-trust does not appear through motivation. It develops through evidence, repeated evidence. Small moments where you do what you said you would do. Habits form the shape of ordinary life. Not dramatic events, not rare bursts of inspiration. Daily behaviors create outcomes. The way you begin mornings, the way you respond to stress, the way you manage time, the way you care for your body. Repetition turns actions into patterns and patterns become identity. Many people wait for strong motivation before changing habits. Motivation is unreliable because emotions shift. Some days enthusiasm appears naturally, other days it disappears. If your actions depend entirely on feeling inspired, progress becomes inconsistent. Discipline grows when behavior continues beyond mood. Keeping promises to yourself starts with making promises that deserve trust. One mistake people often make is creating extreme expectations overnight. They decide to transform everything at once. New routines, new goals, new standards. The plan sounds impressive. The pressure becomes unsustainable. Soon exhaustion replaces excitement. A wiser approach begins smaller. Commit to something realistic enough that consistency becomes possible. Read for 10 minutes, walk daily. Drink more water, write 1 page. Sleep earlier by a small amount. The action matters less than the reliability behind it. Small promises kept repeatedly strengthen confidence. Every fulfilled commitment sends a message inward. It says my word matters. It says I can depend on myself. This message changes identity slowly. Over time, you stop seeing discipline as punishment and begin seeing it as integrity. Integrity is often discussed in terms of public behavior, yet private integrity matters deeply. Who are you when nobody watches? Do your actions align with your values in ordinary moments? The answers shape self-respect. Self-respect grows when behavior and intention move together. Breaking promises to yourself occasionally does not mean failure. Human beings struggle. Circumstances change. Energy fluctuates. The important question becomes what happens next. Do you abandon the commitment entirely or return with honesty? Recovery matters. One missed day does not destroy progress. Repeated surrender often does. There is a harmful mindset that appears after setbacks. People think I already failed, so there is no point continuing. This thinking turns one mistake into a pattern. A different response sounds like this. I slipped and now I continue. This response protects consistency. It keeps identity connected to growth rather than perfection. Habits become stronger when attached to clear reasons. Empty goals lose momentum quickly. Ask why a habit matters. Why do you want better health? Why do you want more discipline? Why does this change deserve effort? Meaning increases endurance. Purpose supports action when convenience disappears. Convenience influences habits more than many realize. If good choices require constant struggle, they become harder to maintain. Design matters. Prepare environments that support desired behaviors. Keep distractions away during work. Place useful tools where they are easy to access. Reduce friction around habits worth building. The opposite also matters. Increase difficulty around behaviors that weaken you. Create barriers between yourself and habits that drain energy. Structure supports discipline. Depending solely on willpower creates unnecessary pressure. Observe your internal dialogue around commitments. Some people speak to themselves with constant criticism. They fail once and respond with harsh judgment. Shame rarely produces sustainable growth. Accountability matters. Cruelty does not. Speak honestly without becoming destructive. Imagine mentoring someone learning a difficult skill. You would likely encourage effort while correcting mistakes. Offer yourself similar balance. Firm standards combined with patience create stronger long-term results. There are moments when keeping promises feels inconvenient. Those moments reveal more than easy days do. Anyone can act according to values when conditions support them. Character becomes visible when conditions resist. Continuing despite low motivation builds evidence of resilience. You do not become disciplined through occasional intense effort. You become disciplined through ordinary consistency. Repeated actions performed quietly shape lives in significant ways. The world often celebrates dramatic change while overlooking the slow accumulation behind it. Think about individuals you admire for reliability. They likely developed reputations through many small choices honored over time. Reliability toward others often begins with reliability toward oneself. Internal order influences external behavior. One powerful habit involves finishing what you start whenever possible. Incomplete tasks create mental weight. Repeated unfinished efforts weaken confidence. Completion creates momentum. Even small completions matter because they reinforce identity. I begin and I continue. This does not mean forcing persistence in every situation regardless of wisdom. Some goals deserve adjustment. Circumstances evolve. Growth sometimes requires changing direction. The distinction lies in whether change comes from thoughtful evaluation or temporary discomfort. Another overlooked area involves promises connected to rest. Discipline is not endless productivity. Rest commitments matter too. Recovery supports performance. Ignoring physical and emotional needs eventually damages consistency. Sustainable habits respect human limits. Your environment influences whether promises survive. Surrounding yourself with people who normalize growth helps. Constant exposure to negativity weakens commitment. Social patterns affect expectations. Choose influences carefully where possible. Technology deserves attention here as well. Many habits collapse through repeated distraction. Intentions compete against endless stimulation. Protect focus. Boundaries around devices may support promises more than additional motivation ever will. Celebrate evidence of consistency privately. Not through arrogance, through recognition. Notice when you honor commitments. Notice when you return after setbacks. Acknowledge progress. The mind responds to evidence. Recognition strengthens continued effort. As habits improve, daily life often changes subtly before dramatically. Energy stabilizes, confidence increases. Decisions become easier because values guide behavior more consistently. These shifts may seem small initially. Their accumulation becomes powerful over years. People sometimes underestimate the emotional effect of self-trust. Knowing you can rely on yourself creates steadiness during uncertainty. External conditions still fluctuate, but internal confidence remains stronger. This confidence comes from lived experience. You proved reliability repeatedly. There may be promises you abandoned long ago, goals postponed, parts of yourself neglected. Begin again without carrying unnecessary shame. The past informs but does not imprison. New evidence can be created through present choices. You are not required to transform overnight. You are required only to continue building alignment between intention and action. This process asks for honesty. It asks for persistence. It asks for willingness to become someone your future self recognizes as dependable. Imagine waking up with less internal conflict because your actions increasingly match your values. Imagine fewer moments of disappointment caused by avoidable inconsistency. Imagine trusting your own decisions because history shows follow-through. These possibilities grow from repeated commitments honored quietly. Strength does not always appear dramatic. Sometimes strength appears as someone choosing again what matters despite inconvenience. Someone continuing after mistakes. Someone honoring a promise made in solitude. The person you become depends partly on habits practiced when nobody praises you. Private choices shape public life. Daily routines shape long-term outcomes. Repetition shapes identity. Your future does not require perfect discipline. It requires increasing alignment. More moments where your word means something to yourself. More evidence that intentions lead to action. More trust built through consistency. Keep promises small enough to keep if necessary. Expand gradually as confidence grows. Protect commitments. Return after setbacks. Continue even when excitement fades. Continue especially then, because each promise honored creates something valuable beyond immediate results. It creates proof. Proof that you can depend on yourself. Proof that change is possible. Proof that discipline is not reserved for certain people, but developed through repeated choices. Eventually those choices stop feeling forced. They become part of who you are, and when identity changes, habits follow more naturally. You no longer chase discipline constantly because reliability has become familiar. That transformation begins in quiet moments. A decision kept, a routine continued, a promise honored without applause. These moments seem ordinary, yet lives are built from ordinary moments repeated with intention. Become someone your own mind learns to trust. Protect that relationship carefully. It influences every goal you pursue and every challenge you face. When self-trust strengthens, many other things become possible because the person carrying your ambitions is finally someone you believe. Chapter 7. Limit reactions by pausing before every important reply. Some of the biggest regrets in life begin with moments that lasted only seconds. A message sent too quickly. A sharp response spoken in anger. An assumption expressed before understanding. A decision made while emotions were loud and reason was quiet. The damage from these moments often lasts longer than the moment itself. Relationships change. Trust weakens. Opportunities disappear. Peace becomes harder to restore. People often believe their problems come from what happens to them. Sometimes the greater problem comes from how they answer what happens. The response carries weight. Words spoken under pressure reveal habits built over time. That is why learning to pause before important replies becomes one of the most useful forms of discipline. A pause looks small from the outside. It rarely receives praise. Yet inside that brief silence, something powerful becomes possible. The mind gains time. Emotion loses urgency. Clarity enters. A person moves from automatic reaction toward intentional response. This difference shapes character. Many individuals spend years reacting instead of responding. They answer criticism immediately. They defend themselves before listening. They interrupt because silence feels uncomfortable. They respond to messages while frustrated. They assume quickness means strength. Yet speed without wisdom often creates unnecessary problems. Think about situations where immediate reaction made life harder. An argument continued because neither person paused long enough to understand. A misunderstanding expanded because assumptions replaced questions. A temporary emotion produced permanent words. These experiences are common because reacting is easier than reflecting. Human beings are emotional. Emotion itself is not weakness. Anger appears, hurt appears, embarrassment appears, disappointment appears. The challenge begins when emotion becomes the only voice guiding behavior. Strong feelings narrow perspective. They push urgency. They convince you that immediate expression is necessary. A pause interrupts this process. It creates distance between feeling and action. Distance allows examination. You ask what actually happened rather than what emotion suggests happened. You ask what response aligns with values rather than what response satisfies temporary impulses. Many people underestimate the influence of silence. Silence can prevent escalation. Silence can reveal understanding. Silence can preserve dignity. Not every situation requires instant explanation. Not every accusation deserves immediate defense. Not every disagreement benefits from faster words. There is confidence in someone who does not rush. They appear grounded because their behavior is not controlled by every passing emotion. This steadiness changes interactions. Others sense reliability. Conversations become less chaotic. Decisions improve. Learning to pause begins with awareness. Notice moments when urgency rises. The body often provides signals first. Increased tension, faster heartbeat, tightness in the jaw, restlessness. These signs indicate emotion may be preparing to lead. Awareness offers a chance to slow down before response occurs. One practical habit involves asking a silent question before replying. What outcome do I want from this interaction? This question shifts attention toward purpose. If your goal is understanding, your words may change. If your goal is resolution, your tone may soften. If your goal is protecting long-term relationships, immediate satisfaction may lose importance. Purpose matters because many reactions seek relief rather than results. You may want to discharge frustration. You may want to prove a point. You may want temporary emotional release. Yet relief achieved through harmful responses often produces greater problems later. The ability to pause does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. Avoidance creates different issues. The goal is not silence forever. The goal is timing. Timing influences effectiveness. Important truths delivered with unnecessary aggression. Logic. Honest communication benefits from composure. Observe people known for wisdom. They often listen longer. They ask questions. Their responses seem measured. This rarely happens by accident. Years of experience may have taught them the cost of impulsive replies. They learned restraint through consequences. Restraint sometimes receives unfair judgment. Some interpret it as weakness or passivity. In reality, restraint often requires greater strength than immediate reaction. Anyone can express emotion instantly. Fewer people can remain composed while processing strong feelings. Technology has intensified this challenge. Messages arrive quickly. Expectations for immediate response increase. Delays become unusual. Yet digital communication removes tone, facial expression, and context. Misunderstandings multiply. Pausing becomes even more valuable in these environments. Consider how many conflicts begin through messages written in emotional states. Frustration enters the keyboard. Assumptions shape interpretation. Responses accelerate. Problems grow before anyone reflects. A short delay could have changed the outcome entirely. One useful practice involves refusing to answer important messages during intense emotional moments. Give yourself time. Revisit later. Read again with a calmer mind. The meaning may appear differently. Your response likely will too. Pausing also improves listening. Many conversations fail because people prepare replies while others are speaking. Their attention remains divided. Genuine listening requires temporary suspension of self. It asks you to understand before responding. Understanding does not require agreement. You may disagree strongly while still listening carefully. This distinction matters. Respectful attention reduces unnecessary conflict. It allows more accurate responses because assumptions decrease. Another hidden benefit of pausing is discovering which matters deserve energy. Some comments lose importance after time passes. Some disagreements no longer require engagement. Immediate reaction creates the illusion that everything needs attention. Reflection reveals otherwise. Maturity changes priorities. You become less interested in winning every argument. You become more interested in preserving peace where possible, not because your standards weaken, because your understanding deepens. You recognize the cost of unnecessary battles. This does not mean accepting disrespect endlessly. Boundaries remain important. Speaking clearly remains important. Yet, clarity delivered thoughtfully often carries greater influence than emotion delivered recklessly. There are moments when silence protects relationships. There are moments when silence protects your own dignity. There are moments when silence allows truth to emerge without pressure. Learning these differences requires practice. Practice begins in ordinary situations. Delayed replies during minor frustrations. Breathing before answering difficult questions. Waiting before interrupting. Asking for time when emotions feel intense. Small exercises build capacity. Capacity matters because difficult moments eventually arrive. Major disappointments, unexpected criticism, personal conflict, stressful decisions. Training during ordinary moments prepares you for heavier situations. Your identity changes gradually through these choices. You stop seeing yourself as someone controlled by immediate reactions. You begin viewing yourself as someone capable of composure. This identity influences future behavior. Confidence grows from evidence. Evidence accumulates quietly. You remember moments where pausing prevented regret. You notice conversations improving. You experience fewer conflicts caused by impulsive words. These outcomes reinforce discipline. People often admire wisdom without understanding its roots. Wisdom frequently grows from reflection combined with restraint. The wise person has likely witnessed consequences of unexamined reactions. Experience taught them slower responses. Imagine carrying less regret from things spoken too quickly. Imagine feeling less drained by conflict. Imagine responding from values rather than emotional urgency. This possibility exists through repeated practice. The pause itself may last seconds. Its influence may last years. One restrained response can preserve trust. One measured conversation can change direction. One moment of patience can prevent lasting damage. There will still be times you react imperfectly. Human beings remain imperfect. Growth does not require flawless behavior. It requires increasing awareness and willingness to improve. After mistakes, ask what happened. Ask what signals appeared before reaction. Learn rather than condemn. Self-improvement strengthens through observation. Patterns become visible. You discover specific situations where impatience rises faster. Certain topics, certain people, certain stresses. Understanding patterns increases preparation. You cannot control every emotion entering your mind. You can influence what happens next. This realization creates freedom. Feelings may appear automatically. Responses involve choice. Choice expands within pauses. Without pauses, choices shrink. Habit dominates. Emotion directs. Regret follows. A few moments of stillness interrupt this cycle. Over years, these moments shape reputation. People learn whether your responses come from thought or impulse. Trust develops around consistency. Calm individuals often become sources of stability because others know reactions will not arrive carelessly. Stability has value in a restless world. The person who remains measured during pressure offers something rare. Their presence reassures. Their words carry weight because they are not scattered carelessly. You deserve that steadiness within yourself too. Imagine living without constant emotional urgency. Imagine approaching important conversations with clarity. Imagine knowing difficult moments do not automatically control your behavior. That version of yourself develops through ordinary pauses, repeated consistently. Before the reply, before the message, before the conclusion, before the judgment. Pause long enough for wisdom to enter. Pause long enough to ask what matters. Pause long enough to remember the person you intend to become. Because every important reply carries more than information. It carries character, it reveals habits, it shapes relationships, it influences identity. Train yourself to respond from your values rather than your first impulse. Over time, this becomes less forced. Composure feels more familiar. Reflection becomes natural. Reactions lose power. Then something significant happens. The world may remain unpredictable. People may remain imperfect. Difficult situations may continue appearing. Yet your inner life becomes steadier because fewer things command immediate control over your words. That steadiness is valuable. Protect it. Strengthen it. Return to it often. A brief pause may seem insignificant in the moment. Yet, some of the strongest lives are built through these quiet acts of self-command, repeated until they become part of who a person is. Chapter 8. Protect your peace by removing toxic daily triggers. Peace is often misunderstood. Many imagine peace as a life without problems, a quiet environment, perfect circumstances, no conflict, no pressure. Yet life rarely offers such conditions for long. Difficult people exist, unexpected setbacks happen, responsibilities increase, stress appears. If peace depends entirely on ideal conditions, it becomes fragile. True peace grows stronger when you learn what disturbs your inner state and become willing to remove or reduce those influences. Many people spend years searching for calm while staying connected to habits, environments, and patterns that quietly steal it. They wonder why they feel tense before the day even begins. They wonder why their patience disappears quickly. They wonder why rest feels incomplete. Often the answer is not hidden in dramatic events. It lives inside repeated daily triggers accepted without examination. A trigger is not always loud. Sometimes it enters quietly. A conversation that leaves you drained every evening. Constant exposure to negative news, comparing your life to others online, clutter surrounding you daily, endless notifications, unresolved resentment, chronic overcommitment. Small experiences repeated often shape emotional states more than occasional major events. One reason toxic triggers become dangerous is because familiarity makes them seem normal. People adapt to stress gradually. They stop questioning environments that exhaust them. They assume irritation is part of personality, when perhaps it is sustained exposure to unhealthy patterns. Awareness changes everything. Begin by observing your days honestly. Notice when your mood shifts unexpectedly. Notice what consistently leaves you feeling heavy, restless, or discouraged. Pay attention without judgment. Patterns emerge through observation. Some people discover their mornings begin with tension because the first thing they consume is anxieties, headlines, arguments online, comparisons. Their mind enters defense mode before their own thoughts fully arrive. Hours later, they wonder why focus feels difficult. Inputs matter. Your mind absorbs what it repeatedly encounters. This is not weakness. It is human nature. Repeated exposure influences expectation. Tone becomes familiar. Emotional states become reinforced. Protecting peace requires becoming selective. Selectivity is often mistaken for avoidance. They are different. Avoidance refuses reality. Selectivity chooses what deserves ongoing access to attention. You can remain informed without constant overload. You can stay compassionate without carrying every burden. You can care deeply without sacrificing stability. Think about physical health. Most people understand that harmful substances affect the body over time. Mental and emotional environments function similarly. Repeated negativity leaves traces. Chronic comparison leaves traces. Constant conflict leaves traces. The effects accumulate quietly. One difficult truth appears during growth. Some triggers involve people. Not everyone around you supports your well-being. Some individuals create constant tension through criticism, manipulation, unpredictability, or endless complaints. This does not mean they are entirely bad. Human beings are complex, yet acknowledging impact matters. You are allowed to consider how relationships affect your inner state. Loyalty without boundaries can become harmful. Compassion without discernment can become exhaustion. Protecting peace sometimes requires reducing exposure where change remains unlikely. This decision often feels uncomfortable because many people fear disappointing others. They worry distance means cruelty, yet preserving emotional stability is not cruelty. It is responsibility. The version of you constantly depleted cannot offer much to anyone. There are relationships where conversations consistently leave you doubting yourself. Others where every interaction becomes drama. Some where guilt replaces mutual respect. Notice these patterns. Peace rarely survives long in environments requiring constant defense. Triggers also emerge from unresolved thoughts. Old mistakes revisited repeatedly, regret replayed, imagined future problems, internal criticism. The mind itself can become an exhausting environment when harmful narratives repeat unchecked. Pay attention to how you speak internally. Some individuals tolerate self-talk they would never direct toward another person. Every mistake becomes evidence of inadequacy. Every setback becomes proof of failure. This creates tension independent of external circumstances. Inner peace strengthens when internal dialogue becomes more honest and less destructive. Honest does not mean overly positive. It means accurate. Difficult moments deserve acknowledgement without unnecessary cruelty. Physical spaces influence peace too. Disorder affects attention. Constant noise affects nervous systems. Environments shape behavior more than many realize. Small changes matter: cleaner spaces, reduced clutter, intentional quiet. These adjustments seem ordinary yet can alter daily experience. Rest deserves protection as well. Lack of recovery weakens emotional resilience. Exhaustion increases sensitivity. Minor frustrations feel larger. Patience shortens. Perspective narrows. Sleep is not separate from emotional well-being. It supports it. Observe how often toxic triggers arrive disguised as entertainment. Endless scrolling. Content designed to provoke outrage. Comparisons disguised as inspiration. Consumption without intention gradually fragments attention. The mind remains stimulated but unsatisfied. Ask whether habits leave you clearer or more scattered afterward. This question reveals much. Activities either restore energy, maintain it, or drain it. Understanding differences supports wiser choices. Peace grows through subtraction as much as addition. People often seek new routines, books, techniques, or goals while ignoring what already creates disruption. Remove before adding. Eliminate unnecessary strain where possible. Simplicity often restores clarity. This principle applies to schedules too. Constant busyness creates hidden pressure. Some individuals fear empty time because silence reveals unresolved thoughts. They fill every moment until exhaustion becomes familiar. Yet, endless activity does not equal meaningful living. Creating space allows reflection. Reflection reveals what deserves continuation and what deserves release. Without pauses, patterns remain invisible. There is courage in removing triggers because removal requires honesty. Honesty may reveal uncomfortable realities. Perhaps certain habits no longer serve you. Perhaps specific influences consistently weaken focus. Perhaps parts of your identity formed around chaos rather than calm. Growth sometimes changes tolerance. What once seemed acceptable begins feeling heavy. This does not mean weakness increased. It may mean awareness deepened. Recognizing unnecessary stress sooner can indicate progress. Another challenge appears after identifying triggers. People expect immediate transformation. Change often happens gradually. One adjustment, one boundary, one reduced exposure. Sustainable protection develops through repeated choices. You may choose not to engage every argument. You may limit time spent in draining environments. You may reduce information overload. You may stop revisiting painful thoughts without purpose. These actions accumulate. The world encourages constant reaction. Immediate opinions, continuous updates, endless comparison. Choosing peace becomes an intentional act in such conditions. It requires deciding that not everything deserves emotional investment. Emotional investment should be thoughtful because energy remains limited. Spending it everywhere leaves little available for meaningful goals, relationships, and growth. Protecting peace means allocating attention carefully. Imagine carrying less invisible weight. Imagine waking with fewer unnecessary influences shaping your mood. Imagine entering conversations with more steadiness because your inner world feels less crowded. This possibility grows through protection. Protection is not isolation. Peace does not require withdrawing from life completely. Healthy peace coexists with responsibility, challenge, and ambition. The difference lies in how much unnecessary disturbance you allow. There will always be unavoidable stress. Responsibility continue. Difficult moments arrive. Yet reducing preventable triggers increases capacity for handling unavoidable ones. Resilience strengthens when resources are not constantly depleted. Think about someone known for calm presence. Their life may not contain fewer problems. Perhaps they learned what deserves attention and what deserves distance. Wisdom often appears through careful selection. Your future self benefits from choices made now. Every trigger reduced creates more space. Space for focus, space for patience, space for creativity, space for meaningful connection. Peace expands where constant disturbance decreases. You do not need permission to protect your mental environment. You do not need to justify every boundary around your energy. Respecting your well-being supports everything else you hope to build. Observe, identify, remove gradually. Repeat. This process lacks drama, yet transforms daily experience over time. Major change often begins through quiet decisions repeated consistently. Peace is not something discovered accidentally. It is maintained intentionally. Through choices, through limits, through awareness, through courage to release what repeatedly harms. Some things in life deserve endurance. Others deserve distance. Learning the difference changes everything. As you continue growing, ask regularly what enters your days unnoticed, what influences your thoughts repeatedly, what weakens your stability, what strengthens it. Protect what strengthens, reduce what weakens. The quality of your inner life deserves attention. Guard it carefully, because peace lost through daily neglect becomes difficult to restore. Peace protected through intentional choices becomes stronger with time. Eventually you notice something meaningful. The world remains imperfect. Challenges remain present. Yet your mind responds differently because fewer unnecessary triggers compete for space. Calm becomes easier to access. Clarity returns more quickly. Energy lasts longer. This is not accidental. It is the result of choosing repeatedly that your peace matters enough to defend. Chapter 9. Practice gratitude to keep minor setbacks in perspective. A small setback has the power to feel much larger when the mind loses perspective. A delayed plan begins to feel like failure. A difficult conversation becomes proof that everything is going wrong. A mistake at work turns into days of self-criticism. One disappointment expands until it covers the entire day. Sometimes the problem itself is not what steals peace. The problem is forgetting what still remains good while focusing only on what feels wrong. Human attention often moves toward what is missing, toward inconvenience, toward discomfort, toward unfinished goals. This tendency is understandable because the mind tries to protect itself from future problems. Yet when attention remains fixed only on difficulties, something important disappears. Appreciation fades. Balance weakens. Small setbacks begin carrying more emotional weight than they deserve. Gratitude changes this relationship, not because gratitude removes hardship, not because gratitude asks you to deny pain. Genuine gratitude teaches perspective. It reminds you that one difficult moment does not erase everything valuable still present. Many misunderstand gratitude. They imagine forced positivity, pretending everything feels fine, ignoring disappointment. This is not gratitude. Gratitude sees difficulty clearly while refusing to let difficulty become the entire story. Both realities can exist. Something may be painful and something may still deserve appreciation. Consider a day that begins badly. Unexpected stress appears, plans shift, frustration builds. Then ask yourself whether everything about the day has become ruined or whether one part became difficult. The answer matters because language shapes experience. Saying everything is terrible often exaggerates. Recognizing one challenge within a larger life creates balance. Perspective influences emotional endurance. People who maintain perspective often recover from setbacks faster. Recovery does not mean avoidance. It means remembering that disappointment belongs within a larger context. Think about moments in your past that once felt overwhelming, problems that consumed attention, situations that seemed permanent. Many eventually changed. Some resolved. Others became smaller with time. Memory reveals something useful. Emotional intensity often decreases while lessons remain. This realization encourages humility toward present frustration. What feels enormous now may appear differently later. Gratitude supports this understanding because it broadens focus beyond immediate discomfort. One practical habit involves noticing ordinary things usually ignored. Clean water, a safe place to rest, someone who cares, the ability to learn, moments of laughter, physical movement, quiet mornings. These examples seem simple because familiarity reduces appreciation. Yet if removed, their importance becomes obvious quickly. The human mind adapts rapidly to blessings. What once felt extraordinary becomes expected. Expectations rise, appreciation decreases. Gratitude interrupts this pattern by returning awareness to what has become ordinary through repetition. Practicing gratitude does not require dramatic experiences. It grows through attention. Attention toward what supports life quietly. Attention toward progress already made. Attention toward strengths developed through earlier struggles. You may ask how gratitude helps during setbacks specifically. The answer lies in proportion. Gratitude keeps problems from becoming larger than reality. It prevents temporary frustration from defining identity. It reminds you that one setback exists alongside many things still functioning. Imagine failing at something important. Without perspective, the mind may conclude, "I never succeed." With gratitude, another possibility appears. "This hurts and I still have opportunities to continue." The difference seems small. Emotionally, it changes direction. Gratitude also reduces entitlement. Entitlement creates hidden dissatisfaction because expectations become rigid. Life must unfold according to specific plans. People must behave according to certain standards. Outcomes must arrive quickly. When reality differs, frustration increases. Appreciation softens rigid expectation. You begin recognizing that many valuable things were never guaranteed. This recognition creates humility. Humility strengthens resilience because fewer disappointments feel like personal injustice. Another overlooked benefit involves comparison. Comparison often steals contentment. You measure progress against others. You focus on what they possess. Attention shifts toward perceived lack. Gratitude returns attention to your own path. It asks what exists here, now, rather than what exists elsewhere. This shift matters because constant comparison creates endless dissatisfaction. Someone will always appear ahead in certain areas. Gratitude grounds you in reality rather than endless measurement. Practicing gratitude during difficult periods requires intention because the mind naturally focuses on threats. Intention means asking different questions. What remains supportive despite this challenge? What strength helped me survive previous struggles? What lesson might this difficulty eventually reveal? Questions influence thought patterns. Thought patterns influence emotional experience. Over time, repeated gratitude changes habitual attention. This does not mean becoming passive toward improvement. Gratitude and ambition can exist together. You may appreciate present conditions while working toward change. Satisfaction with certain aspects of life does not eliminate desire for growth. In fact, gratitude often supports healthier ambition. Goals pursued from appreciation feel different from goals pursued through constant dissatisfaction. One comes from fullness. The other often comes from perceived inadequacy. Observe individuals who remain grounded through challenges. Many possess an ability to recognize good even during difficult periods. Not because suffering disappeared, because perspective remained active. Perspective protects emotional balance. Daily gratitude practices help build this capacity before major setbacks arrive. Writing down appreciated moments, reflecting before sleep, expressing thanks directly to others. Simple actions repeated influence awareness. Expressing gratitude outwardly also strengthens relationships. People often underestimate the effect of appreciation spoken aloud. Recognition deepens connection. It reminds others their presence matters. Gratitude shared increases warmth in ordinary interactions. Setbacks become easier to navigate when supportive relationships exist. Appreciation strengthens those relationships over time. Another reason gratitude deserves practice, there is also gratitude for personal growth itself. Think about qualities developed through difficult experiences. Patience, endurance, discernment, compassion, strength. Many valuable traits emerge through challenges, not despite them. This perspective changes the meaning of hardship. Difficulties remain uncomfortable yet may contribute something important. Gratitude notices development alongside struggle. Some days gratitude feels difficult. Pain dominates attention. Loss appears. Exhaustion increases. During these times, expectation should remain realistic. Gratitude may begin very small. One breath, one person, one quiet moment. Small acknowledgements still matter. You do not need to feel grateful for everything. You can feel grateful within everything. The distinction matters. It protects honesty. Certain experiences deserve grief, anger, or disappointment. Gratitude simply prevents these emotions from becoming total. Your internal environment changes according to repeated focus. Focus repeatedly on lack and dissatisfaction expands. Focus repeatedly on appreciation and perspective deepens. Neither removes reality. Both shape interpretation. Interpretation influences resilience. Resilience influences action. Action influences outcomes. Small mental habits eventually create larger effects. Imagine ending difficult days with awareness that something remained worthwhile. Imagine setbacks losing some power because your mind remembers broader truths. Imagine disappointment existing without destroying hope. Gratitude supports these possibilities. The world contains enough uncertainty without adding unnecessary emotional weight through neglected perspective. Perspective lightens burdens not by denying them but by placing them accurately. There will always be unmet expectations, delays, mistakes, human imperfections, temporary losses. Gratitude does not promise immunity from frustration. It offers balance when frustration appears. Balance becomes especially important because life changes quickly. Circumstances considered ordinary today may become precious later. Recognizing value while present protects against living continuously dissatisfied. Pause occasionally and ask what would have once felt extraordinary but now feels routine. Growth achieved. Stability created. Lessons learned. Relationships maintained. These deserve acknowledgement. Acknowledgement builds appreciation. Appreciation builds perspective. Perspective reduces the ability of minor setbacks to dominate emotional life. The strongest people are not necessarily those experiencing fewer disappointments. They simply remember what remains valuable while moving through disappointment. This memory supports endurance. You carry more than present frustration. You carry experience, lessons, relationships, capabilities, opportunities. Gratitude helps remember these resources when difficulties narrow attention. Train yourself to notice what remains rather than only what is missing. Train yourself to appreciate ordinary support before absence teaches importance. Train yourself to hold setbacks within larger truths, because eventually something changes. Problems still arrive, delays still happen, yet emotional recovery becomes faster. Perspective returns sooner. Small frustrations stop becoming entire identities. This shift develops quietly. One grateful thought during inconvenience. One moment of appreciation during stress. One acknowledgement that difficulty exists beside goodness. Over time, those moments strengthen something important. the ability to experience setbacks without surrendering perspective, the ability to continue without becoming consumed by temporary disappointment, the ability to recognize life as larger than any single difficult day. That ability is valuable. Protect it, practice it, return to it often. Gratitude may appear simple from the outside, yet within simplicity lives a powerful discipline. The discipline of remembering what remains meaningful when frustration tries to convince you otherwise. Chapter 10. Commit to steady growth through small disciplined choices. Lasting change rarely arrives through sudden transformation. It does not depend on rare bursts of motivation or dramatic decisions made in emotional moments. Real growth builds quietly through repeated actions that seem too small to matter at first. A better morning routine, a single focused hour of work, a daily walk instead of constant inactivity, choosing rest instead of late-night distraction, reading a few pages instead of endless scrolling. These actions appear simple on their own, yet their repetition creates a completely different direction in life. Many people underestimate small disciplined choices because they expect progress to feel exciting. They imagine change as something visible immediately. When results do not appear quickly, interest fades, old habits return, effort stops. What is missed in that moment is that discipline was never meant to create instant transformation. It was meant to create consistency that compounds over time. A single decision repeated daily becomes a pattern. A pattern repeated long enough becomes identity. Identity then shapes every future decision without constant effort. This is how growth actually works. Not through intensity but through continuity. The difficulty begins when people rely on emotion instead of structure. Motivation rises and falls. Some days energy feels strong. Other days even small tasks feel heavy. If discipline depends on feeling ready, progress becomes unpredictable. Steady growth requires something more stable than emotion. It requires commitment to small actions regardless of internal state. Think about the difference between someone who tries to change everything at once and someone who focuses on one small improvement. The first person often feels overwhelmed. They start with enthusiasm and quickly burn out. The second person may appear slower at first, but builds a foundation that lasts. Over time, that foundation supports far greater progress. Small disciplined choices reduce resistance. The mind does not reject them easily. Waking up a little earlier, drinking water before reaching for distractions, completing one important task before entertainment. These actions are manageable. Because they are manageable, they are repeatable. And repetition is where transformation lives. Many people wait for the perfect moment to begin. They imagine a future version of themselves who will be more focused, more motivated, more prepared. That version never arrives on its own. It is built through current behavior. Every small choice either reinforces the old pattern or creates a new one. Discipline is often misunderstood as restriction. In reality, it is direction. It is not about removing freedom. It is about guiding energy toward what matters instead of scattering it across temporary impulses. Without direction, even strong effort becomes wasted. There is also a quiet power in lowering the size of commitments. When goals feel too large, avoidance becomes natural. When goals are broken into small daily actions, resistance decreases. The mind is more willing to cooperate when it does not feel overwhelmed. This is why steady growth succeeds where extreme plans often fail. Consider physical health as an example. One intense workout does not change the body, but consistent movement over weeks and months reshapes strength, endurance, and energy levels. The same principle applies to thinking patterns, emotional control, learning, and productivity. Repetition creates structure. Structure creates change. Small disciplined choices also protect mental stability. Constant chaos comes from inconsistent behavior. Starting and stopping habits repeatedly creates frustration. A steady routine reduces internal conflict. Fewer decisions are needed each day because certain actions become automatic. This reduces mental strain and frees energy for more meaningful work. Another important aspect of steady growth is patience with invisible progress. Many improvements are not immediately visible. Better focus, improved patience, increased self-control, stronger decision-making skills all develop quietly. Because results are not always obvious, people often underestimate their progress and stop too early. Understanding that growth is gradual helps maintain commitment. There will be days when discipline feels weak. This is not failure, it is part of the process. The difference between those who grow and those who remain stuck is not absence of struggle. It is continuation despite struggle. Returning to small actions after interruption is where strength is built. A useful approach is to focus on what can be done today rather than what must be achieved in the future. Future goals can feel heavy when viewed as a whole. Today's actions feel manageable. One day of discipline repeated becomes weeks. Weeks become months. Months become a transformed life. Steady growth also requires honesty. It requires recognizing when habits are slipping and correcting direction early, instead of waiting for complete collapse. Small corrections are easier than major recovery. Awareness prevents long periods of stagnation. Environment plays a strong role as well. Surroundings that support discipline make small choices easier. Cluttered environments, constant distractions, and unstructured routines make discipline harder. Adjusting surroundings is often more effective than relying on willpower alone. When the environment supports the behavior, consistency becomes natural. Another key point is reducing emotional dependency on results. If every effort is judged only by immediate outcomes, motivation weakens quickly. Instead, focus on process. Did you show up? Did you complete the small action? Did you stay consistent? These questions build stability because they depend on behavior rather than unpredictable results. Over time, small discipline choices begin to reshape identity. You stop thinking of yourself as someone trying to improve and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. This shift is subtle but powerful. Identity drives behavior more than intention ever will. There is also freedom in simplicity. Complicated systems often collapse under pressure. Simple, consistent actions survive longer because they are easier to maintain. A simple routine followed daily is more powerful than an elaborate plan followed occasionally. Growth does not require perfection. It requires persistence. Mistakes will happen. Days will be missed. Energy will fluctuate. What matters is returning to the path without self-judgment. Continuation matters more than perfection. Eventually something important happens. The effort that once felt forced becomes part of normal life. Discipline stops feeling like struggle and starts feeling like structure. Actions become automatic. Resistance weakens. Progress becomes steady rather than unpredictable. At that stage, life begins to feel more stable, not because challenges disappear, but because internal response becomes more controlled. You react less to impulse and more to intention. You move with direction instead of reaction. This creates a sense of calm strength. Small discipline choices may seem insignificant in the moment, but they are the foundation of every meaningful change. No major transformation exists without them. No lasting improvement survives without repetition. They are the quiet force behind every strong outcome. The future is not shaped by occasional effort. It is shaped by consistent behavior repeated over time. Each small choice adds to a direction. Each disciplined action strengthens a pattern. Each day of follow-through builds a stronger version of yourself. Commitment to steady growth is not a single decision. It is a daily return to what matters. Even when progress feels slow. Even when motivation fades. Even when results are not visible. Continuing anyway is where real change lives. And over time, those small choices stop being just actions. They become identity. A stable identity built on discipline, awareness, and quiet consistency. A life no longer driven by impulse but guided by steady growth earned one small decision at a time.